The Tonys were last night. Death Becomes Her only got one. I mean, it was best costume, but still. Jennifer Samar just holding up the that was rude sign, and then the camera zooming in on her when Nicole won. Just like, I think we all knew who was supposed to win this one. Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. If you have not been here before, my name is Debbie and I read a lot of books, and I feel like my fringe is jumping around today. Not long until this all gets cut. Just cut it all off. I don't even know what way that front bit wants to go. Yeah, today I'll have the audiobook of Into the Storm by Cecelia Ahern. That is the front cover of the book. It was read by Angeline Ball. Yeah, blurb time. One night. It is a wild night in the middle of December, and GP Enya is crouched over a teenage boy performing CPR in the rain. One moment. The boy survives, but Enya's life splinters in two. Trapped in a loveless marriage, the storm propels her to break free. One chance to be free. But even in the remote country town that becomes her sanctuary, Enya is haunted by the night in the rain. Beneath the boughs of an ancient tree that tells 1,000 stories, can she find the courage to face her own? So it was 10 hours and 50 minutes to listen to in contemporary literary and psychological fiction. I loved it. I thought it was so good. Admittedly, at the beginning, I was just like, I'm not sure where this is going. But the more I got into it and the more you get about Enya, and the more complex she became, it was just like, I am really enjoying this. Because I'm a person that likes complex characters. I like unreliable narrators. I like unlikable narrators. And not everybody is in the mood for that. But me, I've always been drawn to those kind of characters. And it kind of, the unreliability and the unlikability draws me in. But for some people, it alienates them. I've seen, because I did see one or two reviews saying this character was unlikable and therefore I didn't like the book, and it was just like, oh, but it's so much more complex than that. At the beginning of the book, it is a stormy night. She is driving home, that you're not completely sure where from, when a taxi driver hollers her down, and there is a boy lying in the road, and she saves this young boy's life. Then from there, just everything in her life starts to fall apart. The taxi driver always starts to blackmail her, saying that you're on my side. It's like, well, I'm not on anybody's side, but all I know is that you flagged me down and I saved his life, so I don't really understand why we need to have some sort of allegiance here. There's somebody else that starts kind of following her, but then when she gets home, her husband is very annoying. It's borderline abusive, really, because the way he talks to her, and I'm just like, this man is manipulative and she needs to get out now. But at the same time, she kind of wants to stay for her son. That moment in the storm when she was looking over the young boy, she had images of her own son in her mind. And so, yeah, you just see this one night kind of just fracture her life, because after that night and her husband going, well, where were you? And she's just like, well, I was on call because I'm a doctor, and I was on my way home and there's this young boy and I saved his life, and he's going off onto a different spiral. To the point where she realises she needs to get out, and she's just like, no, this is the last straw, I cannot live with this anymore, and she leaves. But then her husband manipulates the moment to make her son not want to come with her. So yeah, you've got that manipulative, abusive storyline happening on his side, but then as you go through you realise that she is not being open about everything. It's on in the third person, so it's Enya does this, Enya does that. It's not in the first person, but it still leans into that unreliable narrator type thing, because you realise that you're not getting the full story about Enya. You realise there are things she's lying about, and actually when you look at the night in the storm and you realise that when you get to the end, you realise that a theory about what had happened that night is actually presented earlier in the book, and you kind of go past it, because there's so many theories about what happened that night, about like who was the hit and run driver who hit the boy and drove off, and there's a few theories presented, and when you get to the end you realise actually one of those theories was actually true. But there's so much about her wanting to protect her son. She's wanted to protect herself a bit in a way, especially when you find out that there are some lies that she has told, and just, you don't have the full picture. there's things missing from the narrative that all start to add up towards the end of the book. So yeah, if you like something that's a bit more puzzly, where you cannot rely on everything that you're reading because there is stuff being purposely missed out, so that when it comes out later you get the full picture, this is definitely a puzzle book in my mind to try and piece everything together. But then you also see her racking with guilt over what happened that night, because even though the boy survived, because there's a point when he's in a coma, and there's also the fact that she had images in her mind of her own son when she was doing CPR, and so she makes friends with the boy's mother and does things to kind of help the family. But as more things come out, you realise all is not quite as it seems. It was just really clever, and I really do like stuff that makes me think, and the fact that it wasn't the most 100% reliable or likeable character just added to the layers of Enya as you're reading her, being a GP but realising that through the pages you're not getting the full story. I feel like I've just said that in a million different ways. But yeah, I just thought it was so clever, it was so good, it was very much on the edge of my seat type situation, even though I was standing there, I was listening to it because this was my walks at work book. I did, when I only had about an hour left of it, I listened to it at home. I'm the kind of person that reads quite quickly, so I was listening to it on around 1/3 double speed, depending on how quickly I was processing, but you'll probably find out if you've watched any of my other videos talk about audiobooks, you'll know by now that I do listen to it on quite a fast speed compared to what some people would, but it is just the fact that I can actually read 100 pages in less than an hour, which for some people is considered very, very fast. When I determined that, it was a night at the theatre actually, and I was reading a book and it was just like, I've got about 100 pages left of this book and about an hour of this half of the show, and I realised that I'd finished those 100 pages in less time than the full act was, and it was like, oh, so I do read about 100 pages in less than an hour. And when I googled that to find out how fast that actually was, it said that most people would not actually be able to comprehend what they were reading if they were actually reading at that speed. But I think it's because I'm quite a visual reader, so I have images and like a little movie screen in my head as I'm reading, as it acts it all out. So my brain acts it all out. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. I've read other Cecelia Ahern books, and generally I don't think I've ever actually read a bad book by Cecelia Ahern. So I think she's up there as an author that I will continue to come back to. Another one for me in authors that I am liking, T.M. Logan. And I did just do a T.M. Logan book, so you will have seen that. But I have just seen there's another one here called Postscript. Oh, it's the sequel to P.S. I Love You. If you want to know what I'm currently reading, I am currently reading Bridget Jones's Baby. I am there on the Bridget Jones books, which means I've also got Mad About the Boy on reserve as well. And then I'm listening to Remember My Name by Sam Blake. That one's got about 3 hours left, so I shouldn't take much of that off either. And then I've also got the audiobook of More Confessions of a 40-something Fuck-Up by Alexandra Potter. So that's what I've got at the moment. And then on my reserve, I've got the Comfort book by Matt Haig, which is supposed to be available to me later this month. And then I've also got the audiobook of To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. This is one that was never one that I studied at school, but we do have the play coming to Lee's Playhouse. I'm quite excited about it. So I just thought, this is the time to read the book. So that's a few things that I've got going on at the moment. Into the Storm, Cecelia Ahern. If you like the idea of a good puzzle piece with an unlikable narrator, I think you'll enjoy this. And the voice of Angeline Ball narrating it. Very, very good. I think at first I did start at a slightly slower speed, just as I got used to the accent, because I don't listen to many Irish books. Though I must admit I've listened to a few Irish books in quite quick succession, because both of the Sam Blake books are set in Ireland. I'm assuming that Sam Blake is an Irish author. Actually, I think I read that Sam Blake was actually a pseudonym. Yes, Sam Blake is a pseudonym for Vanessa Fox O'Loughlin. It says that she was originally from St Albans, but she's lived in Wicklow Mountains in Ireland for almost more years than she's lived in the UK. So, yeah, that explains the Irish setting of other Sam Blake books that I have read, which, to be honest, was mainly The Killing Sense. So, yeah. Anyway. So, yeah, not long left of Remember My Name. So I might listen to a little bit after this, actually. and then I can go straight on to more confessions of a 40-something fuck up, which I've got about 10 days left to read that. So yeah. Anyway, so that was Into the Storm by Cecelia Ahern. There's your front cover again. Yeah, there was a point about a quarter of the way in when it was just like, have I just taken any of that in? And so I re-listened to a chapter, and then it was just like, no, it's hooked me again. It just hooked me. Yeah. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not already, and then I will see you next time with another video. Stay safe. I love you all. Goodbye.